Hello everybody. I just wanted to make this quick video for the informational interview just to explain what to expect and how best you can prepare for this upcoming project. So I'm just going to dive right into it. So for the informational interview, you will be interviewing a career professional. It can be a UWM alumni, but it does not have to be. It just has to be somebody in your career field that you can talk to for career advice, or really just to pick their brain for anything going on in the industry currently and to see if you really want to work that specific kind of role or job in your future. So some basics on the informational interview that you should know about. So you're going to conduct just one interview with a career professional. So you're only required to do one interview. And I'll talk about extra credit opportunities after this, but at a minimum, everybody is going to be conducting one interview on their own with a career professional. And for your grade, you're going to submit your rough draft interview guide. So that is coming up. I have examples on Canvas that I will show you at the end of this video. So your rough draft interview guide, which is your list of primary and probing questions that you intend to ask this person. Your confirmation of the interview. And this is just a screenshot, so I just need to see the email, the LinkedIn message, the Facebook message, if you texted this person. I just need to see a simple screenshot that confirming that this interview is taking place and when. And then after the completion of the interview, you will submit 1 page of typed notes that you took during the interview and a 2 to 4 page reflection. So that will be worth 65 points. So I'll talk more later in this video about the 1 page of typed notes and what to expect from that. But the reflection, I put a bunch of guidelines in the assignment sheet for you to read for what kind of information I'm looking for. So this is the bare minimum for the project that everybody will be completing. But because everyone was required to reach out to several career professionals just to confirm or to ensure that you were going to get an interview, some of you are going to get multiple people who respond back saying, yes, of course, I'd love to do an interview with you. So in that case, if more than one person responds to you, you can do up to 2 extra credit interviews, each worth 20 points. So for each of the interviews, you should submit an interview schedule, and I'm expecting that the questions will be a little different for each interview because you're interviewing different people with different experiences, working in different roles. So you'll want to update your questions and tailor them to each unique person that you're interviewing. But I also anticipate that a lot of the questions are probably going to be the same as well. So for the extra credit, I just need the interview schedule that you used for the extra credit interview, 1 page of typed notes that you took during that interview, and then just a screenshot confirming that the interview did take place and when it took place and all of that. So I don't need a full 2 to 4 page reflection for this. That is just for the graded assignment. So for the extra credit, you just need to turn in those 3 pieces. All right, so those are the basics of this assignment. Now let's talk about how best you can prepare for this. The first step is to determine your specific purpose. Why am I going to conduct this interview? Why am I soliciting this person's knowledge and expertise? What topics are you going to explore? So the type of information that you're going to need is career advice, industry knowledge. Basically, you're just picking this person's brain to see, do I like this career path? How can I get there one day? How did they get there? What advice do they have for me to be successful as I am just entering this career field? Anything that you think would be helpful to you as you are just starting out or you're going to be starting out in this career field, you're brand new. You also need to think about how you will use it. So you can record this interview, and I'll talk about recording and taking notes later on. But you want to let them know if you are recording and that you will be taking notes and that this is for a class project and you're going to be writing a reflection. You also will be using this information for your own professional development, for your own career development. And how soon you need it, I suggest that you schedule your interviews within the next week or 2. I'm flexible with this project because it is individual. You're doing it on your own. So just reach out to me if you need to adjust your timeline, if If the person that you are scheduling this interview with is very busy and needs to push the interview back, I'm okay with that. Just let me know, keep me in the loop if you're having issues with scheduling the interview, and I can try to step in and help you. Now, you want to do research before conducting this interview. And if you're doing multiple interviews, then you need to do research into each individual person. So, of course, you want to start just a simple Google search on this person, and likely you probably found them through LinkedIn anyway if you didn't already know them through your personal network. But you'll want to search up this person and the company that they work for on the company website. Definitely look at their LinkedIn page in depth. Look at any news articles that they may be in. Even social media can be helpful just to get a sense of who this person is that you're going to be interviewing, because the interview questions need to be tailored to this individual. So you want to find basic information like where did they study and what did they study. Maybe you can find some commonality there during the interview, but you want to know that information before you even begin. What other roles have they performed? So what other jobs did they work, even internships, what companies were they a part of, or did they work other roles in the company that they're at now? That is information that you should know before beginning this interview process. What skills and qualifications do they have? Which skills and qualifications are necessary for this industry? So this is more so industry-specific knowledge. You want to know if there's any sort of certificates or any degrees that are required or favorable in the industry that you're about to enter. So just basic information that you should know. And what job positions are available in this industry. Even if you're not interested in working those job positions, you still should have a good understanding of everything that goes into the industry that you're about to enter, just to be knowledgeable about who you might be working with and other opportunities for advancement that you might look for in the future. And the result of all of this research is to make your questions insightful, thought-provoking, and up-to-date with the industry. So you want to be using correct jargon or technical terms, and of course you want to be using appropriate titles, especially when you are addressing your interviewee. Now, structuring the interview. So this is your interview guide or your interview schedule. So again, the interview guide or the interview schedule is just an elaborate outline of questions or a list of major topics. You make it as specific as you want. I suggest a moderate schedule. So that is when you write out all of your primary questions and some probing questions, but you still have that flexibility to make the interview a conversation. You can ask new questions that you didn't think of before. You can ask new probing questions that just come up as a result of the conversation during this interview. As for the sequence, I suggest that you organize your questions either chronologically or topical. So chronological, you would be asking questions based on this person's past. Maybe start out asking about their education. How did they get into this industry? What was the hiring process like for them? And then you want to ask questions about the present. What is your role like now? What challenges do you encounter? What is a day in the life of your job right now? And then future, you can ask them about their own career advancement. Where do you plan to go next from here? Or if you could give advice for me as I'm about to enter this industry into the future, what advice would you give for me in that instance? So that would be chronological, past, present, future. You can also organize your questions topically. So maybe you break them down into professional experience, educational experience, and industry knowledge. And those are the 3 topics that you want to explore. Just don't make your questions kind of assembled randomly. You want to make sure that there's some logical thought process behind why you ordered the questions in the way that you did. You want to make all of your questions open-ended. So remember to check once you write out a question, can I answer this question with a yes, no, or just a simple one-worded answer? And if you can, then you want to change the wording of the question to make it more open-ended to get them to talk more. So for this project, I'm suggesting that you prioritize your 5 to 10 top primary questions and some possible probes for them if necessary. But plan extra questions just in case you have time. So the interview is supposed to be 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes you will get an interviewee who is very talkative and clearly indicates that they would love to keep talking to you. And if that's the case, then you can ask them additional questions. If you read the situation and it appears that the person doesn't have anything to do after and they have clearly indicated, no, it's okay, I would love to keep talking to you, then you can ask them more questions. If not, you really want to cap it off at that 15 to 20 minutes to be respectful of their time. But nonetheless, plan extra questions just in case. Okay, now opening the interview. This is when you do your greeting and say hello. There's a procedure to it. So, of course, you want to start out with proper greetings. You need to know what you should call them, how to pronounce their name, and what titles do they use. If you are unsure of how to pronounce somebody's name, you should just Google it. I do it all the time. You just type in somebody's name and say how to pronounce. And Google will give you a function, or there's websites dedicated to helping you pronounce people's names. And sometimes LinkedIn and people's emails actually have a button for that as well, where you can click this little like megaphone button and it will tell you how to pronounce this person's name. So make sure that you know how to pronounce their name. Of course, right off the bat, you want to thank them for their time and be genuine in this. They are giving up some of their time for you, and presumably they have a busy schedule because they are working a full-time job. So you want to be grateful and express that gratitude to them right off the bat. Of course, you want to build rapport. So you don't want to be mechanical about this. You don't want to just jump straight into the interview questions. You need to make them like you right off the bat and appear that you are a kind, friendly, warm person. So there's a lot of techniques for building rapport. Looking through their LinkedIn certainly helps. If you see that they graduated from UWM, that's an easy way to talk about or to build rapport. You can ask them about the upcoming holiday season. You can ask them really anything about their past experience that is on their LinkedIn, or any commonality that you can think of. Maybe you both live in Milwaukee and you can think of some sort of commonality there that you can talk about. You want to start a conversation in the beginning. Yep, start a conversation. But if they seem pretty busy and rigid, maybe keep it brief. You have to kind of read the situation and read this person's body language if it's a video call, just to see how they're feeling. Of course, you want to explain the interview plan. So we did this in the last interview. You just need to say, thank you so much for meeting with me. I'm going to talk to you for about 15 to 20 minutes about your professional experience and your experience working in this current role. Does that sound good to you? And they will likely say, okay. So you need to explain what you wish to learn, so the types of questions you will ask. You need to explain why you need this information. Again, that you are doing this for a course project, that you're going to be writing up a reflection based on this, and how you plan to use it. So if you are recording this interview, you need to ask them if that's okay and let them know that you will delete the recording afterwards. Let them know that you will be taking notes during the interview and that you're going to be writing a reflection afterwards. So how you plan to use this information, they need to know that in the beginning. Ask them if that's okay, and then you can begin the interview. And of course, you want to start with an easy icebreaker question. I always think a great one is, what made you interested in entering this industry? Or what made you interested in working at this specific company? So something that they can just open up about, it's easy, and it doesn't require a ton of thought or effort. You don't want to start with a really tough question right in the beginning, because that's a bad way to build momentum to get to those harder questions later on. All right, now some guidelines for asking questions in the body of the interview. Overall, you want to do more listening than talking, because you're trying to pick their brain. So you want to observe their mannerisms and nonverbals, especially if this is a video interview. Sometimes their facial expressions and their body language will tell you more than the words that they're saying. This is an important one. You want to make each question clear, concise, and carefully worded. Dr. Phil always says that if your interview question is longer than 2 sentences, it's too long and you need to start over. And I agree with him. So each question should be 1 clean, simple sentence, maybe 2, and you shouldn't be, the interviewee should not be asking you to repeat or clarify. So that's something that I'll be able to help you with once you submit your rough draft interview schedule. The questions should be thought-provoking. So this is based on your research that you do on the industry, on the company, and the person you're interviewing. Do not ask basic questions like, where did you go to school? That's something that you should have researched beforehand. It's not very insightful, and you can talk about other things during that 15 to 20 minutes that's going to be much more helpful to you. And of course, you want to remember to ask probing questions throughout. You want this to be more of a conversation, demonstrate that you are actively listening to them. Don't be afraid to ask probing questions. It doesn't have to be after every answer that they give, but if you want more information, then probe for more information. Remember, you can use silent or nudging probes. So that's just a head nod or a gesture that lets them know, go on, keep talking. Informational probes, which seek for further information, like, interesting, can you please tell me more about that? Restatement probes, so that's when you restate a part of your question. If they didn't answer the full question in all of its parts, you can restate one part of it to get their full answer. And of course, reflective or mirror probes. That's when you are just double checking, okay, did I understand this right? I wrote down in my notes that you studied here, here, and here. Is that correct? So you're just checking back in with them to make sure that you recorded the information accurately and you're on the same page. Okay, now we're going to talk about note-taking and recording. So everyone is required to take notes during this interview. You are not required to record, but I do recommend it if you think it will help you write your reflection and recall all of the parts of this interview that you guys talked about. So we'll talk about both of them, I guess. For both of them, you always need to ask permission for both. Sometimes people might get a little sketched out about recording. I personally have never had a student tell me that someone said, no, you can't record this, but it is a possibility. So just say, I would like to take notes and record just for my own purposes in writing the reflection so I can, accurately recall everything that we talked about. Is that okay with you? And let them know that you will delete it after, that you are not posting this anywhere, and you are the only person that is going to be listening to this interview. It's not going to be repeated or reposted anywhere. So just let them know what you're going to do with it. I've never had a student say that they had an issue with that. Okay, so first, note-taking. You should be taking handwritten notes during this interview, and then you're going to afterwards transcribe them into a typed document when you submit. I do not want your handwritten notes. I probably won't be able to read most of them, which is okay. So during the interview, you only take notes on the most important bits. So as they're talking and they say something interesting, you want to jot a note down. You want to keep good eye contact, so you don't want to be so focused on taking notes that you're not engaged in the conversation. You do still primarily need to be looking at them, nodding, listening. The note-taking is just to help you along the way so you can remember what occurred during the conversation, but you still want to be engaged in the interaction. You'll want to take brief notes. So during the interview, you'll use abbreviations, you'll use shorthand writing, just to jot down a couple quick thoughts that you can then later on, you will transcribe them into full, complete sentences. And you'll want to check for accuracy if needed. So again, you're writing your notes. Maybe at one point you want to say, okay, I wrote down in my notes that you talked about this project and you said these were the responsibilities. Do I have that down right? And they'll say yes, or no, you got one detail wrong. So you'll always want to check for accuracy if you feel that maybe you misheard something or you just want to make sure that you wrote something down correctly. So now recording. Again, you are not required to record anything, and I don't ever want to hear the recordings. You don't need to submit it anywhere. It is just for your purposes. So if you want to record this interview interaction, again, ask them if that's okay. You can record from your phone or your laptop. So on my laptop, I use the app called Simple Recorder, and that's all it is. You just hit the button to record. You can pause and stop and save. There's like 4 buttons. It really is a simple recorder, and it's great because it records both what you are saying, the input audio, as well as the internal output audio that's coming from your computer. So that would be your interviewee's voice. I think it works great. I use it all the time. You can also, if this is an in-person interview, you could record on your cell phone. Just the basic recorder that comes with your cell phone, I feel works fine for your purposes. Again, you want to explain why you need a recording and what you will do with it. And of course, you need to practice with the recorder beforehand. So in other words, the first time that you do this recording or use this app should not be during the actual interview. You should play around with it a little bit before this interview begins so that you know how it works and you're not going to be messing with it during the interview because you didn't practice before. Okay, and finally, closing the interview. You definitely want to try to wrap up by the time limit, 15 to 20 minutes. So you can just verbally say something like, well, we're approaching the end of our interview. I just have 1 or 2 more questions for you. And sometimes they will indicate, oh, don't worry, like I have more time. Sometimes they will be very prompt and they will want to end by that 15 to 20 minutes. Just put it in your mind that you should end by 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they will allow you to go further, but it's totally up to them. This is their time that you are using up. Everyone should end this interview with a clearinghouse question. So that would be something like, is there anything else you would like to add? Or what have I not asked that you think is important? And the reason for this is because this is a person that has been already working in this industry for a while, and they know information that you don't and that you maybe never even thought of. So they might bring up some really important topics or pieces of information that are super pertinent to your success in this industry, and this is a great time for them to tell you that. These are questions that you didn't even think to ask. So that's why it's very important that everybody asks some sort of clearinghouse question at the very end. And again, at the end, you want to express your sincere gratitude, maybe even tell them how valuable this information is, the most interesting part of the interview you thought, and what you intend to do with this information and how it has helped you. People really like to feel that their efforts have helped a student grow in their professional career, so be genuine and maybe be specific when you say exactly what you're thankful for. Of course, their time, but the information that they gave, you also want to say thank you for. Of course, you want to make this a dialogue, not a monologue, so you don't want to be talking at them the whole time during the closing. You want to continue and have a conversation with them. Make it a little bit more casual, but still professional, and build rapport with them throughout this part of the interview and really throughout the whole interview. Okay. So that is everything that you need to know about the informational interview. Real quick, I just want to show you this document, Example Questions and Sample Interview Guide for the informational interview. So I think this is going to help everyone as they're developing their interview questions and thinking about the types of information that you might want to gather from this individual or individuals if you are doing multiple interviews. So I broke down into different topics and different categories, just different question areas that you might want to explore. So entering the career field. So how did you begin your career? How did you become interested? What was the transition like from college into the profession? You can ask about common entry-level jobs, anything about college classes that they took. So this is about either before they entered the career field or as they were entering. You might even want to ask about what was the hiring process like? Then you'll definitely want to ask questions about their tasks and responsibilities, because part of this is you're trying to see, is this a job or a career field that I actually want to work in? So you can ask about rewarding and challenging parts of the job. You can definitely, I would ask about main responsibilities or what does a typical day or week look like for you? Just pick one of those, kinds of problems that they deal with. So anything that you're trying to gauge, would I be successful in this role? What is it actually like? And would I enjoy working in this role? Then you can ask questions about career path. So about their career path, what are common career paths in the field? And you can even make that more specific. I'm really interested, or I have skills in writing and social media. What career paths do you think I would enjoy the most? So you can make these questions very specific to yourself and your skill set, your interests. Where do you think you'll be in 5 years or 10 years? You can ask about how this job affects their lifestyle. So anything to do with the career path overall. Then you can ask questions about industry knowledge. So these are going to be very specific to each of your industries. You can even make you can ask about like, predictions for the future of this industry. You can ask about current trends or current events in the industry, any knowledge that you should know before entering into this industry. And I love this one. What do you wish you had known before you started in this industry? And you can even make the questions very specific. So let's say you're an architecture student and you want to ask very specific questions about architecture and columns and constructing buildings. I don't know because I'm not an architect, but maybe you do have very specific questions like that. Go ahead and ask them. I want this to be as helpful to you guys as possible, so you can definitely personalize this and make it as individual as you want. And then, of course, these clearinghouse questions that you want to ask at the end. You only have to have one, but you might want to ask, this one's my favorite. Is there anything I haven't asked about that you think is important? Because they might say, yeah, actually, I'm surprised you didn't ask about this topic. And then they might open up and tell you a lot more about it. And, of course, you can ask them, can we stay in touch and can we connect on LinkedIn? You never want to burn a bridge. You want to build a connection with this person because who knows, you might be working with them someday. And then I just have this sample interview guide. Or sample interview schedule, rather. So this is, you can model your interview schedule after this. I just have an approximate list of how this is going to go. I label the opening question and the clearinghouse question. And I just have my list of primary and probing questions. And then I didn't add this, but at the end I would add extra questions right here just in case you have time. So be sure to check out that document. Let me know if you have any questions, and if you you are done with your interview schedule already and want me to take a look at it, just shoot me an email and I'll prioritize yours and make sure that you get the feedback so that you can begin your interview ASAP. So that is all, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day. Bye.